Hey, you clicked on my video. Appreciate it. Now be sure to like the video and subscribe to the page. Okay, we are now joined by a very special guest, Parrish Alford of the Mississippi Daily Journal. He covers the Mississippi State Bulldogs, and he's going to help us preview the matchup between Mississippi State and LSU. Parrish, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. How are you?
Nick, I'm fine. How are you?
Doing well. All right, so let's get to it. The first thing that I thought of when watching Mississippi State against Arizona is the Bulldogs had to play at 10 p.m. Starkville time on Saturday. They got home around like 3 or 4 a.m. Sunday morning, their time, if I'm not mistaken. And then now they have to travel again to Baton Rouge on Friday. How much does that turnaround schedule, how much that will affect the outcome of this game?
I don't know that it will affect the outcome of the game. I think it obviously affected them on Sunday and maybe a little bit on Monday, but I just think young folks are resilient. I think they will bounce back physically. I think they are used to late nights and odd schedules. This would have been, I think, more of a concern if it was an odd schedule again, if it was like a Thursday game or something, but it's not. I really don't think that's going to be an impact. It did earlier in the week. Okay, they first thing they did on Sunday, which is a regular work day for them, was Mike Leach told them to go sleep for 6 hours and come back. So they worked Sunday night, did the light practice that they do after any Saturday game. I would imagine that body clocks have been restored by this point in the week.
All right. So Mike Leach, he's pretty much run, the same offense for the most part that he's ran, most of his life back to the Hal Mummy days. But how has Mike Leach adapted or tweaked his air raid offense since joining the SEC?
Well, I tell you, I think you can look back at the old Texas Tech teams and see that there was usually a pretty good running back in those offenses. And I think that's there at Mississippi State right now. I think they have good running backs. I think they have some depth at that position. But they were kind of like sneaky productive last year. I mean, you don't look at them as being an impactful running team from game to game, but you look at the end of the season and see that Woody Marks and Dylan Johnson combined for 900 yards at the tailback position. Not saying that they're going to come out and try to run the ball. That's not what they do. It's a different type of running back mentality. You have to be ready to block and catch the ball a lot. And they get the ball a lot, particularly to Dylan Johnson in the passing game. So I don't know that it's that much different in that regard. I think he's got a guy right now, a quarterback that he trusts a whole lot in Will Rogers. Last year, they very rarely threw the ball downfield. They threw it downfield more, and Rogers was very accurate against Memphis in the opener, less against Arizona. I think that's just a product of what Rogers sees when he's back there and running the offense. He was extremely accurate, led the nation in pass completion percentage last year at 73.9. I was very interested to see how he would hold up with accuracy in the first two games as they have a new left tackle there in Dollar Bill Johnson in place of a top 10 pick, Charles Cross. And they've held up pretty well. Pass protection's been pretty good through two games, and Will Rogers' accuracy is there again.
So this offense is certainly moving on all cylinders right now. But what's probably the biggest weakness on the offense, or anything that you're not quite sold on that hasn't been tested yet?
Still looking for a leader to emerge among the wide receivers. I mean, you could go down their stats last year and see guys with 50 and 60 catches, but Mekhi Polk had 110. I mean, it was clear that he was kind of their go-to guy in an offense that passes a lot. They were looking for Mekhi Polk. Well, he's gone. And we wanted to see if the offense would be one where there was a favored wide receiver, that really go-to target, or if the production would be spread around. And it's been spread around in terms of targets. Haven't really seen somebody break through with like, this is the guy. I mean, they went to Thomas a lot early in the Memphis game, kind of a bigger outside receiver, and he was productive there. They've thrown to Caleb Ducking a lot, another bigger guy, but Ducking has had some big catches and has had some drops, and I just haven't seen quite the consistency among the receivers that we saw last year from Mekhi Polk. I think they'll get there. I think they have some weapons, but they've not really emerged right now.
And on the defense, I guess, same thing. So much I've heard about is that stout front line on the defensive front that Mississippi State has, that they're hard to run block against. But what's, I guess, a weakness that you see on defense that, again, same question, like you're not quite sold on yet?
Yeah, last year, particularly in the early games, and this game came early in the season last year as well, the secondary was prone to give up some big plays in the passing game. That hurt them against LSU. A couple of big plays in the third quarter. LSU ran that lead out to 21-3. They cleaned that up. They have cleaned that up this year. You're not seeing those explosive plays from the secondary, but you've seen some explosive runs. Memphis had a couple late in the game. Now, State absolutely dominated Memphis for 2.5 quarters while they ran the lead out. They got the lead up to 35-3 in that game. There was a stretch where Memphis, getting into the third quarter, had not only not crossed the 50, they hadn't crossed their own 40. So it was really, really a strong performance. Then Memphis broke off a couple of runs late, saw some explosive runs there. Some of that had to do with reserves in the game. But Arizona got off a long run on its touchdown drive to open the game last week, and really the defense settled in after that. If there's a weakness, I think they need to clean that up. But largely, this is a group that's in position, is going to make plays. They're going to not get driven back, but I haven't seen them make a lot of plays in the backfield yet. Still kind of waiting on that. Tackles for loss, sacks. Haven't seen a lot of those so far.
So with that in mind, is there anything in watching LSU, the first 2 weeks, however much you've watched them, is there anything about LSU's team that, whether it be offense, defense, what have you, that gives you concern for Mississippi State?
Yeah, the concern would be Jaden Daniels and his running ability. I thought he ran the ball too quickly, was too quick to take off against Florida State. He seemed to settle in later in that game, and then of course was very good, on the touchdown drive that looked like it might tie the game late. But State's got to do a good job of being in position. Typically they are. They've got to know where he is, because this team that has given up some explosive runs, well, he's an explosive runner. And whether you think he takes off too fast or not, he seems to be pretty productive when he does. So, I mean, that's a concern. Haven't really seen them go against that type of quarterback yet this season. And we'll see how they can do with just tracking him and keeping up with him and keeping him between themselves and the goal line as they do so often in typical run plays.
So we've talked about weaknesses, but where do you think Mississippi State has the upper hand in this game?
I think the run defense is pretty strong. And if you can, if you can take that away, and if you can take away Jaden Daniels and track him and keep up with him and not allow that big play from him, I think it still remains to be seen how he is as a passing quarterback. He was late on the scene against Florida State. I don't think you can take much away from the Southern game. That's anybody's FCS game. Hard to evaluate. I know he was 10 for 11. The best thing the SEC players can do in those games is execute, and he did that. So I don't know. I think I think they have a chance to be pretty good in the run defense, and if they can make LSU one-dimensional, we'll see.
So I've heard people break down this game, and specifically Cole Kublik of the SEC Network. He had a great sort of breakdown. He does a great job. And he said that if LSU were to beat Mississippi State, it was to simply attack the perimeter with their speed. and that LSU defense simply just has to tackle well in space. They have to tackle well. Do you agree with that strategy? And do you think that Mississippi State will have a lot of success against this LSU defense?
I think if LSU doesn't tackle well, it'll be a long night. I just think State's going to move the ball and they're going to score. They're going to do that in this offense. Will Rogers is extremely accurate. I mean, if they can disrupt him, if they can make him uncomfortable in the pocket, make him move around, that's not his strength at all. He's a little bit better in terms of mobility, I think, than he was last year. He had a nice play against Memphis where he felt the rush and just moved to his right a few steps to his left and completed a long pass downfield to set up a short touchdown a few plays later. But he's not a guy who's going to take off and run. If they can be the team that gets in the pocket and gets him off his spot, that's going to be the key for them. If they can't, I see no reason that he won't continue to complete at 75% or better and move the chains.
All right, last question for you. Mississippi State's a 2.5-point favorite in Tiger Stadium. Have you made a prediction on this game?
Yes, I predict Mississippi State 29-28 because who knows? It's a toss-up. And so State's the local team that we cover along with Ole Miss. So if I pick local, when the team I'm covering has a chance to win, I'll pick them every time. Saves me grief. Okay. Right. If it's a toss-up, why not? Pick local.
All right. Fair enough. Well, I'm having a hard time picking this, and I went to LSU, so I'm not feeling too confident right now about the Tigers, but we'll see. It'll be a great game nonetheless.
Yeah, well, go ahead and pick the Tigers. That's local for you. You won't catch any grief, so that's okay.
Well, last time I picked them against Florida State, didn't turn out like I wanted to, but we'll see.
Well, Parrish, that extra point, maybe it would have.
Maybe. Parrish, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I appreciate this.
Have a good day.
Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Or follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok in the description link below.